After watching the second episode of High Guardian Spice, knowing what I knew about the reception of this show, my first thought was, why is Amaryllis so popular? After the last episode, my first thought was, oh, that's why. But really, it's a lot more complicated than what you may think. For those watching without having seen the show, High Guardian Spice stars Ruby Rose, an Amish girl struggling to adapt to new technology, a stock dwarf who's the best main character in the show, and a stock elf who's the only one who cares about the main plot. They go to Beacon, Hogwarts, UA, Little Witch Academia, High Guardian Academy. Two minor characters introduced as bullies that they slowly warm up to are Amaryllis and Snapdragon. That's basically all you need to know. Amaryllis isn't really anything special in the first few episodes. She just seemed like a stock bully character that antagonized the main characters for daring to exist in the same space as she did. And that was a negative at the time, but in the end it turned into a net positive when it came to the audience's perception of her, which I will elaborate on in time. Though there was one interesting thing about her. During the episode the characters gave their ideas on what they thought the Guardian's vow was. She had the best one.
I aim to leave a legacy.
It made me far more interested in learning about her circumstances than anyone else, and it was far better than the overwritten speech the headmistresses gave as the true Guardian vow, the first half of which I forgot by the time the second half began. Before that, she basically antagonizes Sage, the Amish girl, for insisting on sticking to old magic instead of the seemingly better in every way new magic, going so far as to do her project for her because they wouldn't be allowed to go to lunch until she was done.
Old magic is sacred. What's the sacred part, Slab? Sweating into plants instead of going to lunch?
And I'm sure I'd have more to say if the show gave me more information on new magic versus old magic. As it stands, even the stock elf girl was glad to finally go to lunch.
Yeah. Yeah?
Yes?
You don't say a lot, Time, but what you do say, boy, it's succinct. You're brutal. I love it.
And at that point, Amaryllis starts to try to befriend Time because she believes she's just as mean as her.
Oh. Hi, Time.
This leads us to the turning point in Amaryllis' character, episode 6. Because, like I said in my Asta video, link in the card, the show decided that, no, Amaryllis isn't just a bully. She's insane.
I'd be happy for her. She usually just talks about murder.
Her main weapon is a tiny wand she uses for her magic, and her secondary is a giant axe that she enjoys using way too much. But more than that, it follows up on something from the last episode, something this show has a lot of trouble doing. Amaryllis is paired off with Time, and they are interesting together. Time's cool demeanor and Amaryllis' brash and combative ones make them work off each other quite well. Even better than Time works off the other main characters.
Elf girl?
What happened?
Whatever, this is stupid. Maybe I'm just testing your loyalty, elf girl.
I'm loyal to people who bother to learn my name.
Thank you, Time.
You're welcome, Axe Girl.
Okay, I kind of like that, actually. This maze is terrible.
Yep, just like people.
Yeah, well, we got that in common, too.
We also learn more about Amaryllis. Specifically, we learn about her home life. Her parents are neglectful, which is very, very, very common in rich bully characters. But unlike most of them, she starts the show with no respect for them, bad-mouthing them to a girl who is frankly a total stranger, with the show's usual dialogue to boot.
She's a lush who never met a deckhand she didn't deck. With her hands. She's a human shipwreck.
The show's tone is all over the place. It advertises tackling mature themes, but unless you consider explaining transgenderism a subject that should not be shown to kids, that was a mistake. Episode 11 is the only episode that actually requires that warning, beyond out-of-place curses and showing blood in fights, and that episode doesn't seem to matter in the long run. And the cursing is super out of place. Except with Amaryllis, who delivers a joke that would have worked perfectly well even if the show was PG.
What are you doing?
Making sure nobody and nothing can hear or touch us. Ugh, fine, but I'm keeping the spell up so I can curse freely.
If you can't tell, Amaryllis is probably the funniest character in the show. And speaking of that episode, this leads into what I call the conflict arc, where the writers tried to insert some drama in Rosemary and Sage's friendship and successfully managed to convince everyone that Amaryllis is a better friend than either of them.
You're messed up!
Funeral director, huh, Cal? You better get out of here before the funeral becomes your own.
Earlier I mentioned that Amaryllis was introduced as an unnecessarily mean bully and that it would later work to her advantage with the audience. When a nice character is introduced and they do something nice, it registers as business as usual. When a mean character is introduced and they do something mean, it registers as business as usual. When a mean character is not only nice but sensitive and reassuring to another's feelings, even going out of their way to comfort them by doing something they don't enjoy, the audience pays attention. It's a tried and tested formula, just as Prince Zuko, Amdi Blight, and Meruem the Ant King. Rosemary and Sage's fight kind of comes out of nowhere and honestly feels kind of childish, which is understandable because they are children, and I'm at least 80% sure the show was initially made for children. It basically boils down to them arguing over what they want to do at the fair and getting really catty with each other. So they wound up fighting because Rosemary wanted to go to the Flaming Axe Challenge and found Sage's activity boring. Instead of just separating to do what they want to do at the time, Sage goes to Rosemary's event and gets upset for what Rosemary considers too long.
Are you still mad about the gourds?
What do you mean, still? It's been 10 minutes. Oh, we can go do the next bummer thing you circled if you want.
This leads to, how did Amaryllis put it?
These women are about to release years of pent-up resentment. Can you imagine how many horrible insults they've been saving up?
So Rose basically calls Sage boring and Sage calls Rose annoying. In all honesty, it's a standard fight between friends that I'm not shocked is in the show. What really causes the problem is the timing. This fight takes place during the Festival of Fall two-parter, and it's pretty much the worst part of the episode because they keep arguing even when fighting Olive, the villain of those episodes.
One bump and they're shattered to death. Unless you catch me.
Parsley still alive in there. I'm going after her. Rose, wait! This isn't a game. You're being too reckless.
You know, Sage, I say you're right, but Olive did pretty much just threaten to start smashing people if you let her go. You have no way to know she won't actually follow up on that threat.
Where is she?
We're never gonna find her now.
Sage! I needed to do something.
Oh, and that's what you went with.
Would you have preferred Olive got her hands on her magic staff again? Who knows, maybe this time she'd actually use magic to fight you. The childishness of the fight was elevated by the fact that they were doing it in the middle of a legitimate life or death situation. And really, it's no wonder people are comparing their friendships when the parts of this episode not focused on Olive's plan and the MC's fight focused on Amaryllis comforting Snap after Cam's insecure ass starts making fun of him to hide the fact he found mermaid Snapdragon attractive. It's begging for a comparison.
Sage, if you want me to be excited, pick something that's fun, okay?
Lingar's Lil Guards? This game's for, like, newborns. Now talk!
Take down the spell.
Not until you tell me what's
I
wrong!
don't want to. Let's just play the game.
Fine!
But they do fight, specifically because Amaryllis' personality doesn't mesh well with Snapdragon's insecure refusal to tell her what's wrong. This is further pushed by their continual failure to beat what Amaryllis thinks is a children's game, and she assumes he's failing on purpose to avoid talking to her. And Snap gets upset about her bossiness, and Amaryllis takes the comment way more seriously than he meant it.
Is that really what you think?
Skipping to the end of two-parter, Snitch and Snapdragon start hanging out together to get away from their louder friends.
Stop waving that thing around. Everyone's stoned. It's too...
That better not have been a real bird.
It was decorative. Oops.
And thus we move on to the next episode where Amaryllis and Rosemary feel they're losing their best friends.
She's avoiding you because she has a new friend now. And Snap's such an amazing friend. He makes you look bad in comparison.
In her infinite wisdom, Amaryllis decides that the best course of action is to embarrass them into leaving each other with a memory spell. Because while she's interesting, she's still very flawed and kind of insane. Which is what makes her interesting.
It's our one chance to get our friends back. We're out of options.
Are you? You've tried like 0 things.
The rest of the episode is just a goofy hijinks and possibly the worst B-plot in the show. You need to summon a demon for long-distance communication? What?
This was a waste of time.
But finally, Slime Boy, our Lord and Savior, gets Rosemary to actually apologize to Sage and start reconciling.
I guess you and Amaryllis were right, huh? Shadowboxing with memory ghosts is way easier than apologizing to someone you care about.
I told her to stop it.
Ah, unhelpful, much like this plan.
So everyone apologizes and Amaryllis realized she blew the argument way out of proportion.
Are you mad at me?
Mad? No.
Like I mentioned earlier, it's really easy to get an audience to like a character who seems to be evil by revealing them doing good things. And Amaryllis, while being the bitchiest character is pretty much the most supportive friend in the show to the people she actually cares about.
Would you still like me if I painted my nails?
Only if you promise to stick to flattering colors. Snap, I'm here for you forever. Whatever's going on, it will be okay.
And that list is slowly growing.
Thank you, time.
You're welcome, Axe Girl.
Okay, I kind of like that actually.
Amaryllis is human.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Parnell.
I have more human friends than ghost ones now.
A lot of people say the creators accidentally made Amaryllis a more likable character than the protagonist, even though she's an antagonist. But in all honesty, I don't believe it was an accident. Maybe being more likable than the protagonist wasn't intended, but there's no way they wrote this scene without knowing what they were doing. She started off as such a one-dimensional character. Too one-dimensional if you ask me, and we slowly get to see more sides of her abrasive personality. All of what I've discussed so far has been character development, where the writers reveal more of her character, but Amaryllis also goes through character growth. Referencing back to the kids game,
Unfreeze them faster and stand farther back.
They weren't getting along, huh?
What do you mean?
This game is all about teamwork.
But they were working together.
1. Work together to defrost all of the students, and they'll join you in beating the monster and saving the school.
Complex for a kid's game.
Who says it's just for kids?
New magic. The only decent way to do anything. Everyone, shut up! New magic users, draw your terraspheres. Snap, you're in charge of the non-mages. Get the teachers ready to be carried out of here. Old magics, you have a sigil spell for a protective shield, right? All of you keep the smoke and fire at bay. You got it. This might actually work, guys. All right, Snap, you're up.
Okay, everyone, move them out.
personally I found Amaryllis' part of the finale far more interesting than protagonists. Largely because Fire was a much better antagonist than the constant failure that was Mandrake, and her stepping up to lead was less predictable than Olive's heel-face turn. Amaryllis isn't the best written character in the world. She's way too one-dimensionally mean in the initial episodes. Her dialogue is only slightly better than the other characters, and it really does feel like they only decided to make her go crazy in episode 6 onwards. But there is a reason so many people like her more than the protagonist. She has flaws that can't be easily found in other characters, and an abrasive personality that makes her both more conducive for natural conflict and fun to watch, all of which makes her more entertaining, especially in context to how she treats those she does care about. Being paired with Snapdragon, who probably has the best character arc in the show, just shows how well they work off each other.
I shouldn't have worn this.
Snap, you're a fabulous mermaid, goddess, challenger, and you're great. Let's go smash shit till you feel better.
If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and comment your thoughts. Don't forget to check out my video on Asta and subscribe for more content. Thank you and good day.